Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something pretty epic. The Ha Giang Loop in Vietnam. It gets called Vietnam's last frontier quite a bit.
It really does.
We've got a whole pile of sources here, notes, articles, videos from people who've just done it. And our job really is to sift through all that. We want to pull out the key insights, the stuff that surprises you, the practical tips you actually need. Especially, if you're maybe new to this kind of travel or maybe haven't spent much time on a motorbike before.
Right.
We'll cover the routes, places to stay, food, what the whole scene is like up there. Because this isn't just any trip, is it? People rave about it.
Yeah.
Mile for mile, maybe the most stunning roads in Vietnam.
That's what many sources say. Yeah, you've got these incredibly rugged mountains, unique cultures, just breathtaking scenery. Promises a real sense of adventure.
Okay, so what is the Ha Giang Loop exactly? Where are we talking about?
We're talking way up north in Vietnam, Ha Giang province. It actually shares a border with China. And geographically, it's just wild. Part of the Dong Van Karst Plateau, which is a UNESCO Global Geopark. So think massive limestone peaks, roads literally carved into mountainsides, stunning valleys.
Sounds dramatic.
It is. And historically, it was pretty cut off, until the 1970s, really. So it's one of the last places in Vietnam to properly open up to tourism like this.
So that's the last frontier vibe. How long is the loop itself?
Usually around 300 to 400 kilometers. Typically, you start and finish in Ha Giang City. And what makes it special, I think, based on these accounts, is that feeling of being remote. It's definitely less touristy than, say, Sapa. People call it the ride of a lifetime.
Okay, epic scenery, remote feel, got it. But let's tackle the big one, especially for listeners maybe newer to Vietnam travel or, crucially, newer to motorbikes. Is this loop actually doable? Is it safe for a beginner?
Right, and the sources are pretty blunt about this. It's often described as a pretty dangerous route. Yeah, travelers really stress how challenging the roads are. Someone literally said, it's a hell of a learning curve to start here if you're new to riding, even if you have some experience.
So it's not like hopping on a scooter in Thailand.
Definitely not. The terrain is mountainous, steep climbs, sharp descents. You absolutely need the right kind of bike, which is usually a semi-automatic motorbike.
Semi-automatic, so it has gears.
Exactly. Unlike the automatic scooters common elsewhere, those gears are crucial for controlling your speed, especially going downhill safely. If you're driving yourself, you really need prior experience using gears on a bike.
And some people even prefer a manual.
Yeah, a few sources mention opting for a manual motorcycle for that extra bit of power and control on the hills. Felt safer to them.
Okay, so that sounds intimidating maybe if you don't have the experience or the right license, which we should definitely talk about, or you just don't fancy the stress of driving yourself.
Then there's the easy rider option. And honestly, this comes up constantly in the sources as a fantastic alternative. Maybe even better for some people.
Easy rider, so you're riding on the back with a local driver.
Exactly. And the feedback is overwhelmingly positive. People said they could actually soak in the breathtaking views instead of white-knuckling in the handlebars.
Makes sense.
The drivers get huge praise, professional, they take good care of you. People felt totally confident with them. One person even said they were trusting them with their life on those mountain roads.
Wow, that's quite the endorsement. Does it offer more than just safety?
It seems so, yeah. Especially if you go for a private tour. The easy riders often act as guides, speaking English, sharing local history and culture, things you might miss if you're just focused on not driving off a cliff.
Right.
So you can tailor your stops, ask questions. Some travelers felt it gave them a much richer experience, better access to amazing food, really authentic homestays, maybe even safer overall compared to some budget self-drive tours. It becomes more of a cultural immersion.
Okay, easy rider sounds like a solid plan B, maybe even plan A for many. Is there another option besides bikes?
Yes. Some sources mention a Jeep option too. If you really don't want to be on a bike, maybe mobility issues or just worried about posterior discomfort after days of riding.
But soreness, yeah, it's a thing.
Exactly. The Jeep option was described as comfy. So that's out there too.
But if you are determined to drive yourself, what's the absolute must-do first step?
Practice. Seriously, don't just pick up the bike and head for the mountains. The advice is clear. Take a couple laps around town first.
In Ha Giang City.
Yeah. Really get a feel for the brakes. Practice shifting gears smoothly up and down. And crucially, think about unexpected situations, like what you're going to do when there's a truck coming towards you and there's no road. You need some muscle memory before you're on a narrow mountain pass.
Solid advice. And protective gear. Sounds like travelers really stress this.
They absolutely do. You'll see locals riding with minimal gear, but the travelers who shared their stories, especially those who had close calls or saw accidents, strongly advise proper protection.
Like what specifically?
Helmet is number one, non-negotiable, and a full face helmet is highly recommended. Apparently something like 30% of impacts happen to the face and jaw area.
Oof, okay.
Then, proper boots that cover your ankles, protective trousers, Kevlar reinforced if possible, and a decent jacket. It's about protecting yourself from bad road rash or broken bones if you do come off, even at low speed on gravel or dirt.
And the International Driving Permit, the IDP, that comes up a lot for self-drivers.
Super important. Two main reasons. First, your travel insurance probably won't cover you for a motorbike accident in Vietnam unless you have the correct, valid IDP for motorbikes. That could be financially disastrous.
Right.
Second, police checkpoints are pretty common on the loop. They check for licenses and permits. If you don't have the right one, you're looking at fines up to 1.5 million dong, which is about 60 US dollars, plus the hassle.
Okay, so get the permit, get the gear, get practice. Preparedness is key. How do you actually get to Ha Giang City to start all this?
Most people come from Hanoi. The standard way is but it's a long haul, like 7 to 9 hours. Usually overnight options are available.
Any other ways?
Some mention taking an overnight train to somewhere like Lao Cai near Sapa, and then getting a bus or riding from there. You can sometimes even take your bike on the train, apparently.
And once you arrive in Ha Giang City, is there any paperwork before you hit the loop itself?
Yes, you need a permit to enter the Dongvan Karst Geopark area, which covers most of the loop. It costs around 300,000 dong.
How do you get that?
It sounds pretty easy. Most hotels and hostels in Ha Giang City know all about it and can arrange it for you quickly.
Good. Now, timing. Mountain weather can be tricky. When's the best time to go, according to these travelers?
Yeah, weather is a big factor. Ha Giang is generally cooler than southern Vietnam. The sweet spots seem to be spring, so March to May, and autumn, October to November. Temperatures are pleasant, mid-20s Celsius, sort of 70s Fahrenheit.
And when should you maybe avoid it?
Winter, December through February, can be properly cold, like down near freezing sometimes. And critically, you often get drizzle and thick fog, which can completely obscure those amazing views. One traveler really regretted their early December trip because of fog.
Right, defeats the purpose a bit. What about summer?
Summer, June to September, is the rainy season. It can be hot and sunny, but you get heavy downpours, usually in the afternoons or evenings. This can cause flooding, landslides, even road closures. Makes things unpredictable, maybe dangerous.
Okay, so shoulder seasons sound best. How long should you allocate for the loop itself? 3 days, 5, a week?
You can do 3-day tours, but the strong advice from pretty much everyone is that 4 or 5 days is much better.
Why is that?
3 days just feels rushed. You spend long hours just driving to cover the distance. With 4 or 5 days, you can actually stop, enjoy viewpoints, explore villages, take breaks. It's just a more relaxed and enjoyable pace. Some people even spend a week or more.
Makes sense. Let's talk accommodation. It sounds like homestays are a big part of the experience.
Definitely. In Ha Giang City itself, you've got options. Standard hotels, often pretty cheap 2-3-star places. Hostels, too. Bong Hostel got mentioned for its social dinners. And homestays like Tum Homestay, noted for being friendly and peaceful. Good idea to stay in the city the night before you start and the night you get back.
And out on the loop.
That's where homestays really shine, along with local guest houses called Ankis. Villages like Du Gia and Nam Dam come up often. Like Quoc Thang Homestay in Nam Dam got a specific shout-out. Ho Garden, too.
What are they like? Basic.
Often simple, yes, but described as clean, comfortable, and incredibly welcoming. Many travelers said staying in homestays added a special touch. You're directly supporting local families. And the food, usually included, gets rave reviews. These are often part of book tours, making it easy. Some newer ones were described as quite beautiful, too.
And cost-wise, what are we looking at? Ballpark figures.
Renting the bike itself is around 17 to 22 US dollars a day. Homestays might be $8 to $15 a night, often including dinner and breakfast, which is great value.
Wow, that's affordable.
Yeah. A full Easy Rider tour package, 4 days, 3 nights, including the driver, bike, accommodation, food. One source mentioned about 370 Australian dollars, so maybe similar in USD. Basic bike maintenance, like an oil change, is super cheap, less than $8.
Good to know. And practicalities like money and phone.
Cash is king once you leave Ha Giang City. ATMs are scarce, so stock up. And a local Vietnamese SIM card is highly recommended for navigationmaps.me, works offline, and just general communication.
Okay, essentials sorted. Let's get into the actual ride. The route, the roads. What's the typical path?
The classic loop generally goes Ha Giang City, then Tam Son and Quanbat District, then Yanmin, Dongvan, Myovac, and then loop back to Ha Giang City.
Is there a preferred direction, clockwise, counterclockwise?
Some people mention choosing to go counterclockwise, so heading south from Myovac towards Maodu earlier on. Their reasoning was to try and avoid being behind the main flow of larger tour groups, which often go clockwise.
Interesting strategy. And the roads themselves, we know they're challenging, but what does that actually mean?
It means be prepared. People talk about treacherous winding turns, sections with sheer drops right next to the road, and no barriers. Construction is common, so expect delays or rough patches.
Paved. Unpaved.
A mix. Some sections are described as dirt, complete with muddy and slippery sections. The road between Maodu and Myovac was specifically called out by one person as the most challenging part for them. You also get loose gravel, especially near mining areas.
So how do you actually drive on this stuff safely?
The universal advice is go slow, really slow. Use your brakes properly, both front and rear. Take your time, don't rush, and use your horn.
Honking. Isn't that rude?
Not here, apparently. On those blind mountain turns, it's essential safety etiquette to let oncoming traffic know you're there. In towns, it's more about just making people aware of your presence in the general chaos.
What kind of other traffic are you sharing these roads with?
It's not just other motorbikes. You've got big stuff. Heavy construction machinery, trucks that can come barreling around corners, buses that sometimes overtake aggressively.
Sounds hectic.
Yeah, city driving in Ha Giang or Hanoi is described as hectic, too, lots of weaving. Dust is also a big factor, so face masks are useful. There's this contrast people notice. Locals navigate it all seemingly effortlessly, while tourists are clearly learning as they go. One traveler mentioned a strategy of speeding past trucks on open sections. Another preferred just going with the flow. You kind of have to figure it out.
Given the road conditions, particularly that potentially rough QL34 section, is there a preferred route back from Myovac?
Yes, several sources recommend taking the DT-182 and QL4C route back towards Ha Giang City via Yanmin. It's shorter, about 150 kilometers, and seems to avoid some of the worst road conditions and heavy truck traffic associated with the mining on the longer QL34 route via Bao Lam.
Okay, route noted. So you endure the roads, the dust, the trucks. What are the rewards? What are the highlights that make it all worthwhile? Sources talk about quiet, hazy hills, winding roads, lush mountains, quaint villages.
The amazing scenery really kicks in almost as soon as you leave Ha Giang City. Those rolling hills and giant limestone karsts start appearing. The first big viewpoint stop is often near Quan Ba.
Ah, the famous Twin Hills.
Exactly, the Ferry Bosom Lookout, great panoramic views. And nearby is Nam Dam Village, home to Dao people, where you can find those authentic homestays.
Then further on, Yen Min.
Yep, common lunch stop, known for pho chicken noodle soup, and apparently a unique bitter cinchona tea.
Interesting. And heading towards Dongvan, there's more culture.
Definitely. You pass the Hamon King's Palace in the Sa Phen Valley. It was built back in the late 1800s. Really interesting place to learn about Hamon history. You could also check out Lung Can Cultural Village or the strange moon surface rock formations.
What about the Lungku Flag Tower, the northernmost point?
Right, that's up near the China border. Offers huge views, but is an out-and-back detour. Some people skip it, especially if the weather isn't great.
Dongvan town itself sounds like a must-do, especially on Sundays.
Oh yeah, the Sunday market in Dongvan is a massive highlight for many. People from maybe 17 different ethnic groups come down from the hills to trade. It's described as just a colorful, noisy, bustling scene.
Any cool interactions there?
People shared stories of locals offering them rice wine, the happy water, or local tobacco, sharing sugar cane. Really friendly interactions. The town's ancient street is also nice for a wander.
And then, the most famous stretch of road.
The Ma Pai Lang Pass. Dongvan to Myovac. This is the bit everyone raves about. Absolutely incredible. Best stretch of the trip. Likely the best road in Vietnam.
Wow, what makes it so special?
It just clings dramatically to the edge of these incredibly steep mountains with absolutely jaw-dropping panoramic views down into the gorge where the No Key River flows.
And you can go down to the river.
Yes, taking a boat tour on the No Key River is a popular detour. Highly recommended by those who did it. It gives you a totally different perspective looking up at the pass.
Amazing. Myovac is the next town stop, and then it's the final leg back.
Pretty much. On the way back towards Ha Giang City, there are other potential stops. Lung Tam Weaving Village, where Hang Mon women make traditional fabrics. Lung Ko Cave, which is relatively newly opened, need a torch for that one. And viewpoints like Heaven's Gate and the Twin Mountains again, maybe stopping this time if you zipped past before.
Okay, so much to see. You've mentioned homestays and food a few times. Let's circle back to that connection aspect. It sounds really central.
It really, really does. Staying in homestays is seen as the way to get a real look into local life. People consistently talk about how friendly the families are. The rooms might be simple but clean and comfy. And the food,
Delicious.
universally praised. Delicious, fresh and tasty, amazing. Often served family style, everyone sharing dishes is a big part of the experience. People appreciated the authenticity, knowing their money was supporting locals directly. It's not luxury, but it's real.
And specific food highlights people mentioned.
Salt coffee came up as amazing, a real favorite. Local specialty meats, that pho ga in Yenmin, the bitter tea. Generally, even simple roadside places served good, high-quality food. If you're on a tour, they usually cater to dietary needs, too.
How do those connections with locals happen? Is it just in the homestays?
No, it seems to happen quite naturally all over. At the markets, like sharing drinks in Dongvan. Waving to kids in villages, though, one source noted a sign advising against giving kids money, as it can discourage schooling, which is an important point.
Yeah.
Sharing food and rice wine, happy water, with hosts or other locals, often communicating just through smiles, gestures, maybe phone translation apps. Hearing traditional music, one guide played a flute. It's about those spontaneous moments, too.
So it's more than just ticking off sites.
Exactly. The sources emphasize the connection you feel, not just doing the loop, but connecting with Vietnam and the people of the area. That seems to be the deeper reward.
And you're sharing this journey with other travelers, too. What's the community like out there? Who do you meet?
It's a real mix. You get the young, cool backpackers, naturally, but also people on organized tours, both easy rider and self-drive. Local people just living their lives, truck drivers, farmers. Specific mentions included Aussie guys in full gear and groups from Singapore, a diverse crowd.
Do you travel in groups?
If you're on a tour, yes, you'll be with other participants and the tour staff.
Yeah.
People often mentioned enjoying meeting other solo travelers this way, making friends. Some did prefer smaller groups, noting some larger ones could get a bit party-focused.
And this mix includes people with vastly different skill levels on the bikes.
Totally. You see everything. Locals who seem born on these roads, carrying incredible loads with minimal gear. Then tourists in head-to-toe protection, clearly concentrating hard on every turn. It really highlights that spectrum of experience and comfort levels. Everyone's kind of navigating it in their own style.
It sounds like it really pushes you, but pays off massively.
Absolutely. It's physically demanding, long hours riding, bumpy roads, the weather extremes, that infamous butt soreness. But everyone balances that against the sheer beauty. The sense of accomplishment, like achieving marathoner status, one person said. The unique cultural moments, and just feeling incredibly present, focused on the road and the surroundings.
Okay, let's try and boil this down to some final practical tips for anyone listening and thinking maybe. First up, sun and water.
Crucial. Drink tons of water all day long and use good sunscreen, reapplying often, especially on your face, even with a helmet. The sun can be intense.
Layers for the changing weather.
Essential. Temperatures shift with altitude and time of day. You need layers you can add or remove, and proper rain gear, jacket, and pants, not just a poncho. Assume it will rain at some point.
Listening to your body seems important too.
100%. Don't push yourself if you're exhausted or the weather turns nasty. It's okay to take extra breaks, pull over, enjoy the view, or even skip something. Take a personal day if needed. It's your trip.
And stay alert on the road.
Always. Watch the road surface, watch for traffic, especially trucks and buses on bends, watch for animals, water buffalo, ducks, dogs, chickens. They're all potential hazards.
And finally, the communication tool.
Use that horn. Seriously. Around blind corners, in traffic, it's expected. It's for safety.
Okay, so wrapping up our deep dive on the Ha Giang Loop, it's undeniably an unforgettable adventure. You've got the challenge, the incredible landscapes, the rich culture, the local connections. It definitely needs preparation, but the rewards sound immense.
Yeah, and for anyone newer to bikes or this kind of travel, that easy rider option really stands out as a great way to experience it safely and maybe even more deeply if you do drive yourself. Gear up, practice first, get the IDP, and timing your visit for the better weather seasons makes a big difference.
Oh, and definitely lean into the homestays and the local food that seems key to the whole experience. Absolutely. And reading through these sources, it feels like the loop is more than just the scenery or the ride itself. It's about pushing your own boundaries, dealing with the unexpected, and seeing a part of Vietnam where life is, well, quite different, even as tourism grows, which does make you think.
Well,
Yeah.
it raises that question about travel in places like this, doesn't it? As these amazing, maybe less developed areas become more accessible, how do these experiences change? And what's our responsibility as travelers to go prepared, travel safely, and interact respectfully with the environment and the communities that make these places so special?
That's a really important thought to end on, something to definitely consider if you're planning a trip like this or just reflecting on travel in general.